Hello everybody, my name is Justin Michael, and I wanted to make this video to document the progress on my mental health. It's been about a year since my last video, and in that video, I was 3 months into my progress with antidepressants, and I wanted to kind of recap what's been going on since that 3 month period. So let's talk about why the Lexapro stopped working for me. Lexapro is an antidepressant and it is an SSRI. At the time, it worked really well for me. It helped me calm my intrusive thoughts that was accompanied with anxiety and kind of paranoia as well. And so I really liked what it did for me. Because of the Lexapro, I gained weight that I was unable to manage, and I kind of lost my sex drive. And I feel like I became a robot in the terms in the way that I wasn't able to really express emotions just because I wasn't really able to feel them. Sadness was something that I didn't really feel. I just felt very disconnected from people and from relationships that I had formed. And so I wanted to get off the Lexapro and get on something that was a little bit more manageable for me in terms of managing my weight, my hormones, my and my relationships, something that was going to be helpful in addition to the social anxiety and the paranoia that I had already had prior. So I decided to talk to my doctor about getting off Lexapro, and my doctor at the time, I was introduced to him by a friend, and so right away I felt trusting, and I felt that he had my best interest at heart. But as the weeks went on and as my sessions went on with him, I began to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Some of the questions that he were to ask me were just not questions that I thought a doctor asks a patient. One of the big reasons I wanted to get off the Lexapro was because of my lack of sex drive. My old doctor, is gay, and so I sometimes maybe felt taken advantage of. Or almost felt as if he wanted to prevent me from being sexually active. And so I felt that he tried to keep me on the Lexapro, although I wanted to get off it. And so at one point I said, you know what, I'm done. I started cutting my dosages in half, and I began to look for another doctor. Only because I was not getting where I needed to be with this current doctor. And so when I decided to cut my dose, not in half, but just the next lowest possible one, which I don't recommend. And disclaimer, I'm not prescribing anybody, I'm not diagnosing anybody, I'm just sharing my story and what I did. So hopefully you can be proactive and kind of learn from what I went through. And so I emailed him and I said, this Lexapro is not working, I'm lowering the dose. And so my next appointment was that week, and he prescribed to me a medication called Pristiq. And so I was to get off of the Lexapro and adjust onto the Pristiq, but during the transition, I was never advised or told to lower the dosage on the Lexapro. So I was still taking the full dose of a Lexapro that I was prescribed, which I believe was the highest or the second highest. I'm not sure which milligrams they go by anymore. It's been about a year, but it was like the second or third highest that you could be on the Lexapro, or the third or fourth, excuse me. And so then I got on the Pristiq, and my body reacted very severely. I just full head to toe aches and chills and physical anxiety. My heart was beating pretty fast, and I just was not able to calm down. And so I emailed my doctor on, I believe it was Friday evening or Saturday evening, one of those 2 days, and I didn't hear back until Monday, maybe mid-afternoon, and I was advised to just continue with the Pristiq for a few more days. After that night of that feeling, and I didn't go to the hospital only because of COVID, and just because of everything going on, I felt scared to leave the house in the state that I was in the state the world is in. And so I got off the Prestige and I went back onto the Lexapro, and I began to again look for a different doctor, and I was making calls left and right that day. And fortunately, I was able to find one immediately. And from then, I had stopped seeing my old doctor, and I started seeing a new doctor. Some of the things my old doctor used to do that made me uncomfortable, just because I know I didn't go in depth with that, but my sex drive again was a main issue, and so he often asked me if I had seen my ex-boyfriend, even though I hadn't mentioned him in our sessions. I guess what I'm trying to say is that relationships with doctors need to be built on trust. If you feel uncomfortable at any point with your doctor, or you question what they're doing, chances are maybe things aren't right. I was able to find another doctor immediately, and he took me off the Lexapro, and we began Effexor, which is what I'm currently on now, and I'm currently on 150 milligrams of Effexor. And that began maybe in the fall, and over the course of the winter, I began feeling better. I felt more energized. I felt motivated, and I just felt better than I had even with the Lexapro. I still experience pretty bad mood swings, but I don't think that they are as bad as they were perhaps a year ago. So those are still things that I continue to work on in therapy, but just that the Effexor has helped with me. While being on the Effexor, while being in therapy and on the Effexor, I began to develop a physical pain in the lower half of my body. And I believe this is because anxiety for me a year ago meant intrusive thoughts and paranoia, as I mentioned. I'm able now, because of the tools that I've gathered in therapy, I'm able to kind of work my way through them. I have the tools now to work through the thoughts, the paranoia, or the unwanted thoughts. I believe I have now the ability to differentiate when my brain is lying to me and when it's not. I know when I'm not thinking. I believe that I have a good idea of when I'm not thinking rationally or very wise, or when I'm reacting too emotionally. And so I began to feel anxious because of certain things that were being triggered in my life, either by social media or just relationships that I've had, just kind of resurfacing. And in my brain, I was able to kind of break down those things, but my physical body, I felt, was not able to catch up with my brain. And so I was feeling physical anxiety, meaning instead of those paranoid thoughts that I would get, that I labeled as anxiety, now I was getting aches in my legs, to the point where maybe I couldn't walk some days. I couldn't work. I had to stop myself from working out because I just couldn't put any weight or pressure on my legs. And so I knew something had to change. I thought it was the Effexor, but it was actually another medication that I've been on for over a year, and that's called mirtazapine. Mirtazapine is an antidepressant, and it helps induce sleep for people with insomnia. I have trouble falling asleep, and I have trouble staying asleep. And so the mirtazapine worked for me for a very long time, and it would help me fall asleep. And I would stay asleep for 8 hours without a problem. With the Effexor, it's a bit different. I haven't really had a good night's rest in maybe over a month. And my doctor and I have found that the mirtazapine was what was causing the anxiety to produce physical aches in my legs. And so what we did was get me off the mirtazapine immediately, and so I was asked by my doctor if I wanted to replace that with another medication, or if I just wanted to just not have a sleep aid. And because I hadn't slept in over a month, I said, yes, I want the sleep aid. And so I was prescribed Doxepin, which is an old school antidepressant, which in very small dosages can help induce sleep. And it does help me fall asleep, but it still does not help me stay asleep. To this day, I still wake up at 4 in the morning and 5 in the morning, and again at 6 before I have to wake up at 7 to start my day. And so, again, I wanted to make this video to just kind of document my progress, to kind of show that it's never perfect. There's no magic pill that's gonna make you feel better. It's kind of just a lot of trial and error, unfortunately. And right now, I believe that the Effexor is not, I don't think that this medication is agreeing with me. And so what I would like to do is maybe document over the next month or so as I ultimately get off of this medication and onto another one. I wanted to keep this video short and sweet, so thank you for taking the time to listen to me and to follow along with my story. I want to continue telling my story. But before I do that, I want to let you guys know that you can reach out to me if you want to better understand your mind, if you want to better understand your body, if you need help finding a therapist or a psychiatrist or a doctor in your network, or even if you're not insured. I want to be able to help you find the help that you need. Or even if you need someone to talk to, please reach out to me. I'm always happy to listen. I'm happy to do Zoom calls. I'm happy to do game nights. I want you to know that you're not alone, and that everything that you are feeling, whether it be in your mind or your body, is completely normal. And we can get through this together. So thank you for listening, and I will see you all next week.